Thank you for joining us for Weekdays Live with Reverend Al Sharpton. Take the time to share this broadcast right now. Tell your friends it's time to keep it real with Reverend Al. Comment your questions now in the chat or call Reverend Al Sharpton directly on air at 877-532-5797. Now stay tuned for Reverend Al.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton. As you watch the broadcast, support National Action Network. Go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net and be involved. You can join, take your membership right online, www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Getting ready to start the program, but we need you to be part of the movement.
Thank you for joining us for Weekdays Live with Reverend Al.
Rev, you know, you were right there
From the beginning.
with the stuff that
Yep.
was going on in Brooklyn at that time, at Howard Beach. You were right there.
He had in one of the early movies, he had my name. Then he put me in Malcolm, and I wasn't even old enough to know Malcolm. So we've been through it all.
For those who see Malcolm X, it's 3 hours. But fast forward to the scene with yourself,
Yep.
Bobby Seale.
Right. Bobby Seale, Denzel, and me.
Yeah.
Denzel was on the set.
Now, let me ask a question.
Yep.
What was your weight on that scene?
I probably about 270. I was bigger then.
Yeah.
Still had the hair,
And
man.
you had the head on.
Yeah, it was.
Denzel, yourself, and Bobby Seale.
Yeah, all in one scene.
And also, there was no cut. We went like this.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Only Spike could have done that.
It's my brother right here.
My baby.
Brooklyn's in the house.
Yes, sir.
Brooklyn's in the house.
BK.
It's been a long time coming, but I know
1968, Dr. Martin Luther King was killed in Memphis, Tennessee. And it has been the commitment of National Action Network to always, in the month he was killed, to let them know they killed the dreamer.
I have a dream today.
They came for the dream. It's Monday, May the 18th. Do you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton's time. And for the next 3 hours, it's time to put aside all pretenses, deception, denial, or fronting. The time has come to keep it real on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. Very good afternoon to you all across the country. Good morning to our West Coast listeners, and welcome to those listening on Sirius XM, channel 126,
all you that are on our message board already. I see Deborah Fleming is on our message board. And you can get on the message board. Just go to nationalactionnetwork.net, www.nationalactionnetwork.net, and send a message. I'll read as many as I can off of the board, on the board. And Deborah's saying, hi, Reverend Al Sharpton. This is Deborah from North Carolina. I seen Pete Buttigieg in Town Hall on Sunday, May 17th. He brought the House down. He talked on the Supreme Court reform and universal health care. All right. Buttigieg was at our national convention, and he was very impressive there, I would say, to Deborah. And he called early asking about the march in Washington, August 28th. And I told him we're working out the details, but he's planning to be there. And many say he's going to run for president. We'll see. Governor Beshear was on my show last night, TV show Politics Nation. They say he's going to run. So we're hearing from a lot of people, but we got to weigh what they're going to say. They had the rally in Selma and then in Montgomery and then some in Louisiana over the weekend. And I know that Senator Cory Booker was in Atlanta, and people are talking about he may run. AOC was there talking about she may run. So we'll see. My question is, what are they going to run on? And we've had 9 or 10 of them at the convention. This year we're going to have more next year when we know who's running. And we're going to have this national march on voting rights and DEI on August 28th. We're working out the details, but stay on our website, because this week we'll be able to put up exactly where we're going. But I can tell you now, Friday, August 28th, we're going there. And why Friday? Friday, the 8th of August is the anniversary, 63rd anniversary of the original March on Washington, where Dr. King gave his historic speech. And usually Martin Luther King III, Andrea Waters King, and I do it every 2 years. We're doing it this year because they've taken out the Voting Rights Act. And the reason why you want to do it on Friday is not only because it's the date, you want to do it while Washington is open and at work. You do it on Saturday or Sunday, they're not at work. I want to do it while the clerks are working in the Supreme Court. And maybe some of the justices are there. And the people are working at the Capitol and the White House. We want to come by the tens of thousands. They had the National Prayer Service yesterday on the Mall. We need to show our national strength. Because let me tell you something, these people are stripping us in broad daylight. And some of us don't get it. I remember that I was on one of the shows this weekend, and one of the hosts said, Reverend Al, I was at Selma, I think they said 2-3 years ago, and I noticed in the crowd there weren't a lot of young people. How do we deal with that? Like the old days. I said, first of all, you act like every young person in the old days was marching. The kids in SNCC were a minority. Most of the people that went to their campuses would not get involved. That's nothing new. Most old folks were not involved. You know, we act like, people talk about back in the day, back in the day, you didn't never have the majority of blacks marching, unfortunately, or getting engaged. So quit romanticizing it. Like today's people are not doing what the old folks did. I said this on the air, that interview. The biggest march we had in the 60s, and I was a kid, but I've researched it, was the March on Washington, August 28, 1963, which we marched on that anniversary. It was called by A. Philip Randolph, who was in his 70s. Dr. King didn't call that march. He was one of the big 6 that spoke there. And we didn't have a 1 million man march to 1995. We act like every march they had was 1 million people. It was never that. But it was enough to show the country that you could not ignore us. But there was never a majority of old folks or young folks that paid the price. Everybody benefited from it, but everybody wasn't involved. So that's why we taking attendance this year on who's involved, who talks a good game or who shows up. And I think that we need to deal with that. Let's talk about that, talk about the absolute threat to our rights, voting rights that we're dealing with. Talk about now President Trump is saying time is running out on Iran. You better move now. I thought you said that a couple of weeks ago. Talk about his back and forward on Iran. And let's talk about the Christian leaders that went out there and had their rally yesterday. I don't understand for the life of me, I said on my AURN commentary, how you have Christian leaders get up and say that I thank God sent us a president to give us a ballroom, not give us food for the hungry, not give us healing for the sick, not care for the outcast and the homeless, but give us a ballroom. So I really, really, really want to know which God and Son of God they worship. My Bible, the ones that had the ballrooms was Belshazzar and Nebuchadnezzar. I didn't see no people that God sent with a ballroom. Now, that's why it's a calling show. If you know about it, call me and correct me, because I sure want to know. Donna Howard is saying on the message board, good afternoon, went to Johnson City Smith University graduation, and Governor Wes Moore was the commencement speaker. He gave a great message about the current political landscape, standing ovation. He's a great speaker, great guy. There are also rumors he may run for president. I will say this, I think that we're going to have 10 or 12 people that begin the race, and they will wiggle down to 3 or 4 by the time the primaries are over. But we must make sure that our issues are front and center. That's what I do every year when we have these races, make them come to NAN's convention so we can question them on our issue. There's no shame in that. Nancy Dixon is saying at home right now, focusing on how we senior citizens are treating. Do something about that. We work all our life, deal with that. I agree with you, Nancy. I think that it is absolutely outrageous that there are seniors and Medicare and Medicaid and all the kind of benefits being cut. And on top of having people in office that kick our seniors to the curb, many of them are mixed income, but now got to deal with the wrath of higher gas prices, higher food prices. And then your younger blacks gonna come and act like they're absolute get out the way. Y'all just get out the way. Nowhere in recorded history has blacks sent their seniors off to the woodshed until now. All of a sudden now, seniors need to sit down, shut up, and listen to you. Like if you had something to say, people wouldn't be listening anyway. You ain't got to tell nobody to shut up to hear you if you got something to say. If it makes sense, everybody will shut up and listen. I hear some guys pass the baton. The baton is not passed, the baton is earned. If somebody pass you the baton, ain't nobody gonna follow you unless they trust in what you are about and what you say. Quit playing with yourself. Can't nobody give you the trust of the people? Can't nobody give you the faith of the people? If everybody sat down and you the only one left on stage, you still got to deliver. You don't see in the white community having that argument. They elected a 70-year-old man who eats Big Macs named Donald Trump. He's getting ready to be 80 years old next month. But Stephen Miller and others that are in their 30s understand, old or young, if they come out, they can get their Project 2025 together. You run around talking about somebody passed the baton. If you were doing the work, wouldn't nobody have to pass it, you'd have it. Let's take a break. We're going to take your calls. It is Hot Button Monday. Whatever's on your mind, whatever's in your heart. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Or send me a message on nationalactionnetwork.net. Jennings Tar sent me a message, said, greetings, Reverend Al from North Carolina. Reverend Al, one of the great civil rights leaders in Greenville, was buried in the past Saturday. His name was Benny Roundtree, better known as Benny Boy Roundtree, one of our great leaders. Well, blessings to me, rest in peace, and blessings to his family. Thank you for that notification. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back.
We need some room. All right, hold on. Michael Jackson is the highest selling artist of all time. No one has sold more records in the history of the planet than Michael Jackson. But Michael Jackson said to us, he did not want to just raise the issue of what's happening with him. He said that artists all over the world need people to stand up and protect their rights. And he said, Reverend, if we're going to stand up, if it's for all artists, I'm there. As you know, there's a big rally. His fan club is doing this afternoon. But he said, I'm coming to Harlem this morning to meet with community leaders because we want justice in the music industry for all artists. Now there'll be some that say, oh, Michael, are you doing this only because of your situation? Michael came to Harlem 2 months ago for the DNC. Now he comes for his own peers because we discussed it. Kathy and I talked about how we watched James Brown struggle, Little Richard struggle. We've seen artists, black and white and Latino struggle. Somewhere this has to stop. We do not buy records. We do not buy CDs to give money to the company. We buy it to support the artists that we like. And we want the artists to be free. We don't want the companies bigger than the artists. We want the people respected and the stars that we make stars to shine in the galaxy for us. And let me say this is the 4th of July weekend. Michael Jackson is an American story. Him and his family rose from Gary, Indiana, to where he's an icon all over the world. Didn't no one give him anything. He sung, he danced, he created, he produced, he spent hours in the studio. No executive did that for him. You do not have the right to take from someone what you didn't put in them. He created where he is. We appreciated it. We didn't hear about Michael when he got to Sony. We knew Michael at ABC when he was in Gary. They got thrilled when he did Thriller. We was already thrilled. We were already off the wall. And we coming off our seats to stand up for justice in the music industry. And let me say one more thing. I don't need that loud talking now. We're on the rail. I want people to hear the message. Let me say something. I read one newspaper said, well, the record company said they're going to wait and put out the best of Michael Jackson. You can't put out the best of Michael Jackson because the best of Michael Jackson is yet to come. He's still creating. He's still innovating. He's still the king. He's still ours and we are still his. Fans all over the world. Thousands came out in London. Thousands will come out in New York. All over the world, we're going to make it clear that our artists should not be paying back things they had no input in. The promotion budgets. James M. Tume will lay it out. The video budgets. All of this are charged to the artists, yet the artists have no discretion over what to say. So if they want to buy an ad with their friend, Michael can't tell them buy it in Jet Magazine because they decide the budget and charge it to the artists. That's why many of these artists have no money at the end of their career. But he wanted to fight while he was on top. So it will help your child not have to fight one day to go through what they've had to go through. Sammy Davis Jr. died broke. His wife had to become a waitress. Michael said, I owe it to Sammy. I owe it to James Brown. I owe it to Little Richard. We're going to stop this once and for all.
Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive on tomorrow night and beyond. Young America, hold your head high now. We can win. You must never stop dreaming. Face reality, yes, but don't stop with the way things are. Dream of things as they ought to be. Dream. Face pain, but love, hope, faith, and dreams will help you rise above the pain. Use hope and imagination as weapons of survival and progress, but you keep on dreaming, young America. Dream of peace. Peace is rational and reasonable. War is irrational in this age and unwinnable. Dream of teachers who teach for life and not for living. Dream of doctors who are concerned more about public health than private wealth. Dream of lawyers more concerned about justice and the judgeship. Dream of preachers who are concerned more about prophecy than profiteering. Dream on the high road with sound values. You must never surrender to inequality. Women.
Robert Culp used to do a show with Bill Cosby, I Spy, and he did a documentary on breadbasket, Robert Culp.
Oh, wow.
You need to see that documentary. It's great.
Absolutely.
I lived this. I didn't read this. I lived it. I was there.
You true to this?
I'm true to this.
Not new to this.
I ain't new to this.
Vote to phone Troy, you see him?
He was, Jack O'Dell was one of the guys that Kennedy warned Dr. King about. Say he was a communist.
Wow.
Jack O'Dell and Stanley Levinson. And Reverend brought him in. Nobody else in the movie would deal with Jack. Reverend brought him in.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Just us.
Just like.
But there's stories behind all of it. It didn't just happen.
But I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody. I may be in jail, but I am somebody. I may be uneducated, but I am somebody. I am black, beautiful, proud. I must be respected. I must be protected. I am somebody.
Come today. I see the Reverend Jesse Jackson is here. Thank you for the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Whatever's on your mind, whatever's in your heart, 1-877-532-5797, or go to the message board. And I got Lynn Robinson saying, I concur, Reverend Sharpton. And I think we had another one saying, Lynn Robinson saying, I am viewing from Tel Aviv, Israel. All right. Now, I know we had a lot of Europe, Germany. We always hear from our brother there. But now we in Israel. Last week, a couple people from Africa. With SiriusXM and being on National Action Network Net, you can get it anywhere in the world. And you'd be surprised how people around the world are watching what we're doing and what we're not doing. I want y'all to be real clear about that, because a lot of us is just running our mouths and they're just running the gamut on us and we're not saying anything. Tomorrow's the primaries in Philadelphia. I'm going to see who shows up and who votes for who. We also have the primary in Georgia. I had former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms on Politics Nation night before, was it last night? And she's running for governor. I'm going to see who shows up. Talk is good if you're going to back it up with action. But if you're just going to talk, people will know not to take you seriously, because the opposition that we're in knows that they have to do more than talk. And I think that we've got to be real clear about that. All right, let's take some of our hot button calls, Hot Button Monday. Let's start with the mayor, Queensbridge Houses, Queens, New York, Mayor Rodney Jones. Mr. Mayor, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Good afternoon, my shepherd. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How you doing, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, always a blessing to speak to my shepherd. Politics Nation, Saturday and Sunday was awesome. You always bring it, Rev. That's why we have to have you and others like Roland Martin and others on the radio, on TV. We have to keep our black stations and our black people relevant. But I want to get to this strike here in New York City, Long Island Railroad, right? Now, I was a member of 1199 Union when Dennis Rivera was the head of it, and God bless Grisham, God bless him. And my father worked for TWU. He was a mechanic on Guy R. Brewer for Jamaica Bus Company back in the day, right? And it's like, I don't know what's going on with this thing, but Blake to get on TV blaming Hochul, You know, I'm surprised he didn't say Obama or Biden or Kamala. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's this guy, like, he running for governor, and he just want to blame Hochul. Like, come on, man. Like, you know, I understand, like, people want to, the union workers want to, inflation go up, things go up, people want a livable wage. And it's like, you know, what I understand is capitalism, Rev. It's like these people don't want to budge. Like, you know, why they have to shut down everything? And it's like they want to, they want, what do you mean they want too much? What are you talking about? I mean, I remember my pops, he used to work to the bone, Rev. Coming home tired. You know, my mom would always prepare a meal. He'd come home, wore out. You know what I'm saying? Because he was a mechanic, master mechanic, Jamaica Bus Company, Rev, back in the day. TWU. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand these people. Like, Rev, man. I love you, Rev. I just want to express my, Top Button Monday, Rev. This Long Island Rev, hopefully the strike be over. Give them what they do. You know, you got the Spirit Airlines. 17,000 people lost their job.
That's right.
TSA went through it.
And it's going to paralyze the city because people now are going to have to drive. People are going to have to try to find other ways to get to work. They're saying work out of the house, and you don't know if you can. We're going to see what we got to see. I see on the message board Jesse Jackson Jr. saying, love your show. Well, that's my little brother forever. And I walk in the shadow of his father, his spirit forever. And Junior, let me tell you something, Jesse Jr., one of the brightest that I've ever seen any generation. And when he was in Congress, 17 years, passed so many pieces of legislation, really changed. He's a scholar. You need to read his books and watch his and listen to his radio show. So I didn't know Jesse Jr. was tuned in. Got to get him on the August 28th speaking to March in Washington. I mean, people really, really don't know how deep that brother is. And we've been together a long time. Demetrius in Cleveland, Ohio, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton. Demetrius.
Hey, thank you, Rev Sharpton. It's a pleasure speaking to you again. First of all, I'd like to speak on the epidemic that's in Uganda and Congo, the new variant of the Ebola virus. I hope they find some type of way to get some type of vaccine to the people there, because of the severity of the disease and the potential for it to spread to other countries in Africa and maybe around the world. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, what is surprising, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised, is the lack of attention that has been put out on there. Because of where it is, I guess they don't care about people in Africa. But there is a serious epidemic of Ebola that has broken out in those two countries. And there ought to be global reaction, sending in, like you say, vaccines, sending in healthcare workers. You haven't heard anything. In fact, I'm not even hearing black people talk about it.
No, they're not. And it really should be a main concern because a disease like that could be really transferred to any nation. Because when it's ignored, just because African. So on the African continent, people from Africa travel all around the world. So it could be transported by Europeans, because Europeans live in Uganda as well, So that's why it's very important, to help, send vaccinations there. And also I just want to mention, with Cuba, the United States sent CIA director there to negotiate.
Yeah, I saw that.
But that shouldn't be done. If you use Cuba as a stepping stone to use intelligence for the rest of South America. I guess you send aid to Cuba because of the blockade the United States set up, and the Cuban government was set up by the Che Guevara and Fidel Castro to fight oppression, not to come with tools.
Well, hold on a minute, because I want to get into that Cuba thing in a minute. Hold on 1 minute with me, Demetrius. Let's take a break. Hot Button Monday. 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton, keeping it real. Be right back.
I remember I was 12 years old. I was a boy preacher in the Church of God in Christ. Bishop Shear knew my bishop, Bishop Washington. Bishop Washington, my mother was concerned I was getting into politics. They brought us to Reverend William Jones. His daughter's traveling with us. And Reverend Jones introduced me to Jesse Jackson. I became his youth director in New York at 13. I liked Reverend Jackson because he was a little hipper than the older preachers. He was 27, I was 13 by the time I became youth director. So he was like a father figure to me. When I got about 40, he said, quit calling me father, call me big brother. We went to the car center, and James Meeks and Jesse Jr. and I had dinner with him that night. And that's where he said to us, Al, Meeks, Jesse Jr., y'all are my disciples. And we said, disciples? And for years we joked each other. I'd come in the room and Junior said, here's disciple number one. But discipleship meant you carried forth the vision. The next day, he took me on the ferry to Goree Island, Mrs. Jackson. On Goree Island, he showed me where the slave camps were. And I will never forget, he said, Al, you see what that artifact is? I said, what's that? He said, they call it the door of no return. When you go through that door, you either made it to America to slavery, or you died in the Atlantic. The door of no return. But I talked to him about 3 years ago, and I reminded him, I said, remember when you brought me to the door of no return? He said, yeah. I said, well, we did return. We returned the President of the United States, Barack Obama. We returned the Vice President, Kamala Harris. We returned with businessmen. They thought they sent us as slaves. We came back as global liberators. The problem is that too many of us did not join the movements that sponsored us. And there was a breakout in 2024 called Negro Amnesia, where you forgot where you came from and forgot how you got where you got. Therefore, they're trying to take back everything you had.
I thank God I was blessed to have both in my life. Both historic, strong figures. But if I misused them and listened to not only figures that are not as historic as them, but figures that had nothing to do with the calling and purpose of my life, I would live confused. I'd be double-minded. I'm clear. And what I want you to do is be clear. Clear on who you are, why you are. And a lot of that will be exposed to you and others by who you are around and who you allow to enter your head. Keep people at a distance that only have a distant and unclear vision of who you are and who you are supposed to be. They could be your blood relatives, but they could not be the ones that accompany you toward what you ought to be about tonight. Everybody good to you ain't good for you. Everybody that makes you laugh sometimes end up making you a joke.
This organization has been on the front line. People ask me, why do families call us? Because we never leave them. No justice, no justice, What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? When do we want it? When do we want it?
This is the first Thanksgiving I'm here in New York. Over 20 years. I'm just glad to be here with Rev today and to hand out the food. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing.
It's Erica Ford, the Peace Doctor in the building. Here at the National Action Network, it's about thanks. It's about giving. It's about gratitude. It's about love. I feel it is important for you to understand that there's work out here to be done, but it starts with gratitude, it starts with giving, it starts with peace, it starts with love. Let's go.
Before we feed our family, we got to make sure that we feed the community. That's right. That's what it's all about. We got to come with Sharpton phones. You come and you make sure you show up, serve the community. That's what it's all about.
Voting rights!
Voting rights.
Everyone look here.
Say it again, Ms. Pearl.
Voting rights!
Voting rights. One more time, Ms. Pearl.
Voting rights!
There we go. Voting rights.
Voting rights!
Voting rights.
Voting rights!
Voting rights.
When do we want it?
Now.
When do we need it?
Now!
Yesterday.
What do we want?
Voting rights.
When do we need it?
Now.
What do we want?
Voting rights.
When do we need it?
Now.
But Reverend, it looks bad now. Look at Iran. Look at what's going on in Minnesota. Look on. Yeah, but I was raised by them to realize that after storms, if we do the right thing in the storm, if we organize, if we register, if we do what we're supposed to do, there's always a rainbow coming out. The rainbow don't show until the storm is over. The rainbow gonna come out in November. The rainbow gonna come out in 28. We gonna fix these tricks in 26 and march through the gates in 28. We didn't come this far to turn around now. We won't go back. We won't go back. We won't go back. That I want to end. He talked about the dry bones in the valley.
Don't take that.
The only reason that the wind could blow life into the bones
Keeping
is
it
because at
real.
some point
Keeping
they had
it
to
real.
be connected.
I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. And as I speak, South Carolina is looking to sweep House seats. They're having hearings today, and people are there. And I think we're going to keep an eye on that. The governor there supposed to be saying privately that he thinks it will backfire if they try to take Jim Clyburn's seat. We're going to see where it is and where it is not. But this is going on all over the country. This is absolutely flashing red light time. All right, let me go back to Demetrius. Demetrius?
Yeah, I was speaking.
Is Demetrius there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to mention concerning Cuba. Cuba was established because when they had the revolution, they felt like the country was taken advantage of. They wanted to have economic opportunity. And to me, the United States, they have an embargo to Vietnam, they have an embargo to China, and those communist countries. And Israel have a bad reputation of denying people, civil rights there, and the Palestinians as well, and Saudi Arabia as well. And for the United States to embargo Cuba, Cuba not asking for a handout are they asking for it just to have the right, to trade with other countries? Because the embargo set by the United States, other countries, they have embargo as well. That's why the people in Cuba are going through such a crisis, even double now with this administration.
Yeah, well, first of all, it is clear that Trump may try to do something with Cuba. I went to Cuba in 2000, and I remember it like it was yesterday because the Carib newspaper here in New York, you were sponsoring at the time retreats every year, and I went down for the retreat in Montego Bay, and we wanted to go to Cuba, and Congressman Rangel and others, because they're members of Congress, could get a pass to go to Cuba. They called them back in the session, couldn't go, so I got Prime Minister of Jamaica, Patterson, called Cuba and arranged for me to come in on the clergy visit. And I had lunch with Fidel Castro, and I never forget, Castro said to me, we talked through an interpreter, but he spent a couple of hours with me, and he said, Reverend, when we beat Batista, ran him out of power, Che Guevara, and there were murals all over Havana of Che. He said Che Guevara wanted to now export the revolution, go to Bolivia, go to Argentina, go to Congo and Africa. He said, I told Che, you can export the revolution, I'll help finance it, but I need to stay here and make the revolution work. You have to govern. And I think that from him and to Raul Castro, who they're talking about now indicting into whatever, they're trying to set up, again, a boogeyman. They being the Trump administration, clearly have not gotten what they wanted to get done in Iran. They wanted a quick fix, and it has not happened. The Iranians have been much tougher adversaries than they thought. They thought that Putin by now would have squashed Ukraine. Zelensky has shown himself to be resilient. So they need a distraction, like when they ran down to Venezuela and grabbed Maduro, yet they still have not changed the government there. The people in charge are the people that were with Maduro. So I think that we might see some more theatrics grabbing Raul Castro. And what does it mean? And I think that it is absolutely something to be aware of. A lot of what you see the present president Trump do is just drama. He plays with smoke and mirrors, and so you will get caught up in the drama over here. Oh, they grabbed Maduro in Venezuela. Oh, they're going into Cuba. Oh, my God, he's meeting with Zelensky and cursed him out. All that is drama while they're cutting private deals. Don't forget, Demetrius, this president went to China, costing crazy money of taxpayers' money, got really nothing. She did not give him any commitment on Iran, about weapons, nothing. Pressed him on what is he going to do about Taiwan, and got nothing. Or did he get nothing? Because he had with him the tech billionaires, Elon Musk, Tim Scott, guy from Nevada. So maybe the whole trip was to cut some private deals with American billionaires, wannabe trillionaires on technology because of the big tech trade they need to do with China. And maybe we were looking for the wrong thing in the trip because that was never the objective. You gotta ask yourself, if he was going, he being Trump, if he was going there to deal with Iran, Ukraine, opening up the Strait of Hormuz, why do you need Elon Musk there? They ain't got no expertise in that.
Why do you need Tim Cook there? He has no expertise in that. So we've got to look beyond, it's like the play, The Wizard of Oz. We got to look beyond the veil and look and see if the wizard's got any clothes and see what they really up to. And that's what I think you got to be careful of with Cuba.
Yeah, I understand, because I just hate to see innocent people suffer because of the games he playing. Because when he he don't care about he don't care about the people in the U.S. The price of oil and inflation. As long as he feel like he want to take away the uranium from Iran, that shows his goal. I don't believe that's not his ultimate goal. Like you said, it's a business deal. It's about controlling the oil fields in Iran. And the same way as Cuba, it's not about liberating the people. It's all about economics. But they want to go back to Cuba like it was when Batista was president. So it all boils down to want to exploit the people 9 times out of 10. It just saddens that innocent people have to suffer because of the tactics he wants to use to enrich himself and those that's in his circle. And last, I just want to mention about I can't remember the senator who lost his re-election being in Louisiana, the Republican.
Cassidy.
Who voted. Yeah, Cassidy, yes. He stood up to Donald Trump for the right reason, because he knew it was against the Constitution and what Donald Trump trying to do, have complete control of the government. And for those who voted against him, to me it's really sad that they would put the democracy on the back burner when they know that Donald Trump, he don't care about them. He just came out and said, his main goal is what he wants. He don't care about the inflation, about the economic situation in the United States. And when it comes to the economy and the farmers, who back Donald Trump, a lot of them in the rural areas, that to me, they willing to sacrifice their own economic well-being, sacrifice their own moral well-being, because Donald Trump proved, he don't have any respect for other people with the name calling and a breaking the law and with the Epstein files out there. So they willing to sacrifice all that just to follow Donald Trump. To me, it's more of a racial thing. They have so much hate against other groups of people. They really sacrifice their own well-being, their own economic security, and believing that America shouldn't have no other group of people here, or the values they think America should have. And America was all the people here before Europeans came here, but they had that false belief that they have the highest morality and they have the state in America. But for them, to sacrifice their well-being to follow Donald Trump, you got to really look at themselves and see if they follow a cult leader, or they follow somebody who's supposed to be respecting the Constitution and the government. Really
you said it very well. You said it very well. Thank you for your call, as always.
Thank you.
Good kick off the first hour of Keeping It Real for this week. Let's get it on. It is Hot Button Monday. Sharpton, 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797. I see Rodney Jones, the mayor, saying people in the chat might think I'm ignorant. I know it's spelled ignorant. No, you're not ignorant, but you sometimes got to deal with ignorant people. Some kind of way ignorant makes the point stronger than ignorant. Ignorant. Let's take a break. Be right back.
Breaking news.
It's been a long time coming, but I know
1968, Dr. Martin King was killed in Memphis, Tennessee. And it has been the commitment of National Action Network to always, in the month he was killed, to let them know they killed the dreamer.
Because I have a dream today.
But they can't kill the dreamer.
is Al Sharpton anyway? Who is this 33-year-old preacher without a church?
A number of black New Yorkers as well. He is little more than a pudgy exhibitionist who can be counted on to show up, bullhorn in hand, at every racial incident.
I often quote Mark Twain saying, "The two most important moments in life is the moment you are born and the moment you find out why you were born." I had a very troubling conversation the other day that prompted me to do this little video. Young man that I've known a while came to me and he was crushed. I mean, really crushed, because people were criticizing his work. He's in the ministry, but he's also an actor. And he said he couldn't understand why people were jumping all over, criticizing him, trying to find scandalous and derogatory things about him. And I told him, I said, you know, you're very young. You don't know the road I've traveled. They called me everything but a child of God.
A blabbermouth, a loudmouth, too flamboyant, an agitator, a racist,
I had to learn.
Yeah, right.
I was not defined by how others saw me. I was defined by how I saw myself and whether I was being true to myself. Some of you watching this don't like me. And it doesn't matter as long as I know what I'm doing. And I like me for being real. So I'm doing this video to say to you, whoever you are and whatever you do, you may not be in ministry or social justice, none of this stuff, but don't live your life worried about opposition or people that don't like you. You can turn that around. Use me as an example. The same people that called me a scam artist, a con artist, a sellout, or racial hustler and all, I kept going. And the people I respected started respecting and publicly embracing my work.
When Coretta Scott King, the widow of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., had this to say about Al Sharpton.
A leader who has protested injustice with a passionate, unrelenting commitment to nonviolent action in the spirit and tradition of Martin Luther King Jr. And I am talking about your leader, our leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
The other thing that hasn't changed is the National Action Network's commitment to fight injustice and inequality here in New York City and across America. And that's not only a testament to Reverend Sharpton, it's a testament to all of you who are here tonight.
First and foremost, to Reverend Sharpton. I saw him when he first came on the scene, and I have marveled at his tenacity, at the development of his intellect, and his devotion to our movement, and much he has contributed to the world we are experiencing. I am honored, and I must say that when I had my debate with Dr. King on the issue of the church and religion, he didn't warn me that after his departure, his space would be filled by another preacher, and that preacher would be Al Sharpton.
All you want in life is people that matter to you to say you did all right. And more important, that you can look in the mirror and say you did all right.
Thank you, Rev. Thanks for that introduction. Look, we've known each other for a long time. I'm grateful not only for your leadership and partnership, but quite frankly, more importantly, for your friendship. And thanks to all of you, members of our nation's most important civil rights organization.
You have been, over all of your years, such an extraordinary leader. You are a voice of truth, a voice of conscience, a voice of practicality around what we must address and what we can do. And I thank you so much for your friendship.
I remember that most of the youth around Al's age, he was about 12, wanted to be like Connie Hawkins, a great basketball player, legend, or Earl the Pearl, or Clyde Frazier. Al wanted to be like Adam Powell. a powerful preacher with a social justice gospel. He was very close to, at that time, to Reverend William Augustus Jones, powerful preacher and social justice advocate, and Reverend Gardner Taylor, who stayed right down the street, and Bishop Washington, whose church he came from, and Reverend Sandy Ray. He wanted to be like these giant preachers. He wanted them to have the edge, however, of the King's social justice dimension. He wanted to be like them. Now he's one of them. Perhaps taller than most of them because of the risks he has taken and the reward God has given him with his gift. I remember so well that first escorted him to jail. He was around 13 years old with the jail fighting the ANP. He was in the lineage of our struggle. He grew up in it. We didn't just see him on TV one night. He didn't happen. He came bottom up, not top down.
Many people cannot focus because they have not really come to terms with their calling and life purpose. In order to focus, you must also be clear on what you're focusing on. So if you're not clear on your purpose, if you're not clear on your life's calling, then focus on seeking that. Because if you just read the ways and roads you traveled that you didn't even choose, that were sort of just laid out for you by God, in that it's telling us.
I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we are back. It's Hot Button Monday. Whatever is on your mind, whatever is in your heart, and there's so much going on between, you've got the hearings today on redistricting in South Carolina. You have the primaries in Georgia and in Philadelphia tomorrow. And a lot to talk about and a lot to share on what we're going to do about what's going on. It's not enough. You know, a lot of people I'm a news buff, they tell me. I watched all the news. I watch Fox News, I watch everybody, Rev Mal. I'm a news buff. Okay. That's fine. That's, in fact, good. But after you watch everything, what do you get up and do? Having the news buff and not being actively involved seems to me is
a little crazy. I think that a lot of us use being up to speed to show how smart we are. But if you're not active, how smart are you really being? Think about it. I see Tanya Stovall on our message board said he should pay them from the billions he stole from taxpayers or keep more lies from his body's illegitimate lawsuits, scam payers. I don't know the impetus of that. Okay, now I got it. Akeem Smith had said, Reverend Sharpton, NBC News, reporting that it's a taxpayer-backed fund to bail out the insurrectionists on January 6th in exchange for Trump dropping his lawsuit against the IRS. Yeah, I saw this, and I think that's one of the most egregious acts I've ever seen an elected official, less known a president, do. He sued the IRS for over $1 billion, saying that they mistreated him, they slandered him. But I'll drop the lawsuit if you settle and pay off the January 6 people who assaulted law enforcement people, who desecrated Congress people's desks, who threatened members of the Senate and Congress, threatened their own vice president. Pay them off, and you ain't got to pay me off. And by the way, I'm putting it up to the Department of Justice, who I nominated and appointed, the head of the Department of Justice, who's the acting attorney general, who used to be my personal lawyer. Now, if that ain't self-serving, I don't know what is. We're joined as we are every Monday to kick off our week by the one and only political strategist, as well as founder and CEO of Blueprint Strategy, the one and only Antoine Seawright. How you doing, Antoine?
Reverend As, good to be with you on this very consequential Monday. They become more and more consequential every week, every time we take to this program.
That is for sure. Explain to us, there's several consequential things happening simultaneously, but they're coming from the same root.
Source.
And the same,
yeah.
And it's certainly the same source. Explain to us what's going on in South Carolina around the congressional seat of Jim Clyburn. I'm getting some words from Reverend Rivers and our National Action Network chapter there about the governor saying one thing, now they're having hearings on the other. Tell us what you can share.
Well, Red, let me frame the conversation. While some call it redistricting, I call it racial gerrymandering, with the purpose and intent to exterminate and eliminate black political representation and black power, starting in the South, the very same place where black representation was the last to be implemented. So let's start there and tell you what it is. Donald Trump, thanks to his right-wing activist court, used the ruling in Louisiana as a gift and a guarantee to start this assault all across the South. At first, our governor was in the posture of he was not going to call the General Assembly back because his executive authority only allows them to be called back in emergency situations only. However, after the Senate rejected drawing the maps onto the discussion table for the remainder of the session ended on Thursday. The governor called the General Assembly back for the purpose of the budget and to debate redrawing the lines. The House started their process on Friday. I just got word that Reverend Rivers and his team is up there at the Capitol today as they are holding hearings in this mid-decade redistricting. There will be 80-some odd amendments put up, which could take days. And if it gets over to the Senate, or when it gets over to the Senate, I think the similar process, there will be days of public hearings and testimony to hear from folks all over the state about how bad this is. And in some cases, there will be some who will say this is a good thing. What I don't want to get lost, Reverend Al, is that military families, and South Carolina has 7 military bases, the largest in the country, military presence, have already started voting. On Tuesday of this week, the early voting starts for the primary season. So we run the risk of throwing out ballots of people who are serving our country, who are away, who've already cast their vote. And then it's going to cost the state between $2 to $4 million to have an election in August. And so this egregious and aggressive effort to eliminate black political power, i.e. Jim Clyburn, is just another page in the catalog of Trump's right-wing, racist, extreme behavior. And they are very intentional about erasing Jim Clyburn's congressional district. And Rev, let me tell you also why that's important. Jim Clyburn is not the first African-American from South Carolina to be in the United States Congress. He is the first since Reconstruction. It was 95 years before he and the last African-American to serve our state because of this same subject of redistricting. That's why it is all hands on deck, and we cannot afford to not fight in this moment.
Now, the prescription for how to deal with this in South Carolina, what can you share, if you can at all, the strategy? And I understand that, and like you said, Reverend Rivers and his team is on the way to Columbia now. He heads National Action Network South Carolina chapter and as our National Religious Affairs Director, so I know directly from him what's going on when he gets there. I think he talked with the governor last week. But explain to us.
He did?
Yeah, explain to us what Clyburn, Congressman Clyburn said, that this could backfire on them if they mess with his district.
Well, it could backfire because when you unpack the 6th congressional district, you make some other neighboring districts more attractive from a Democratic standpoint. Now, notice I said Democratic, not necessarily African American, and so you make the performance of the districts more attractive from a Democratic standpoint, and that's all well, fine, and good. And I know there's some saying that's a good thing. There's some in the Democratic Party saying that's a good thing. But before I'm a Democrat, I'm black, Reverend Al. And when I say that, what I say that yes, it may be attractive for a white Democrat to be able to win, or a moderate, however you want to describe yourself, however you want to describe the scene. But I'm more specifically concerned about having African American representation from South Carolina in the same way I am Mississippi, because South Carolina, very flirtatious to Mississippi, has a 28% African American population. Mississippi is somewhere in the 30s. We can have a state in the South with 27 to 30% African American and no African American representation. That should be concerning and alarming for us as a community. So I'm all for them saying they're going to redraw the lines, yada, yada, yada. And I'm all for some in my party saying, well, go ahead and do it because this is a good thing. It may backfire. But I'm also not naive about this effort to exterminate and eliminate black political power. The other thing I think Jim Clyburn was trying to say to folks in his coded message, if you will, to the world, is that they think they're doing him a disservice. They may be doing him a service because Jim Clyburn has 3 residences that he can run from, and he's well known around the state. So there's not a district they draw in the state that he cannot compete in and win if he whatever he decides to do in terms of reelection. And yes, he is running for reelection.
And lastly, before we go back to the phones, the primaries tomorrow in Georgia. Mm-hmm. It appears if early voting reports are right, Keisha Lance Bottoms, former mayor of Atlanta, will be the Democratic nominee against a Republican, because Brian Kemp is limited time limited. How important is that race you see happening in Georgia, because we saw in the last 2 presidential elections, Georgia is more black management U.S. Senate, and I think this year I don't think you have a primary problem. Read the tea leaves for me about what's going on in Georgia.
Well, so goes Georgia, so goes the tune of the South. That's why Georgia's important.
Well, man, hold on 1 minute. Let's take the break and get your comments on the other side. And then I promise I'm going right to the phone. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Hot Button Monday. See right. We'll be right back.
breaking news.
We have a young man in the studio who I think is an astounding young brother because of his youth. He's only 19 years old and he's accomplished a lot, and he's here to make a presentation to James Brown, and we'd like to welcome him warmly. His name is Al Sharpton. How about it for Al Sharpton? Al is the National Director of the National Youth Movement Incorporated. Right, Al?
That's right.
And what do we have here?
Well, we come to break tradition. We know that in the recording industry that they give a gold record to those that achieve a million seller. But we view your million seller payback as a black record because it is relevant and says many of the things that young blacks have tried to say and could not musically express in our own little way. And we feel the payback is sort of like the theme song of Young Black America in 1974. Yeah.
Now, before you go into the title tune of your latest album, you have a special guest.
Yeah, I do have a special guest, a young lady.
That's going to perform with you?
Yeah, she...
Some of you forget where you come from and forget how you got there and act like you got there because you were qualified or that you had a good resume. But some of us had to pay a price for your resume to even be read. Some of us had to take nights in jails and licks upside the head or shut out of boardrooms like Byron so you could walk down red carpets and act like you got there by yourself. So I received this award with a special, special place in my heart and on my shelf because I'm getting it from a freedom fighter who never forgot where he came from and how he got there. Yes, we've come a long way. We've had now a black president and now a black vice president. But we still can get shot down and have to march to get a case in court. We still can get shut out of boardrooms. We're still doubly unemployed in a good economy. So we're going to have to keep marching. And I thank not only my family, a mother that raised me by herself,
But I thank that lady at the end of the march that knows she won't be on TV that night and knows her name will never be in the paper, but she believed in me enough to get at the end of the line and make me look good. Because Dr. King used to say, if you call a march and no one shows up, you just going for a walk. And I want to thank those that marched with me. 32 years ago, here in Los Angeles, we marched. And then many years later, with George Floyd and others, we're still marching. And I'm going to keep marching. I'm going to keep agitating. And I'm going to keep going. Until we don't have to do it anymore. Eddie, known you a long time, Mariah, Chris, and your kids. And I promise you this, the only thing that I really live for is I get up with this dream that every bigot, every racist, everyone in this country that hates will say, damn, he's up again.
Tried to turn it into a nightmare. We come to Wall Street rather than Washington this year to let them know you can try to turn back the clock, but you can't turn back time. We gonna keep the dream alive on Wall Street.
That I want to end. He talked about the dry bones in the valley.
Don't take it back.
The only reason that the wind could blow life into the bones is because at some point they had to be connected. If the wind had blown into a disconnected body, it still wouldn't have worked. So before he prophesied to the wind, they had to first get the foot bone to connect to the ankle bone, and the ankle bone to the calf bone, and to the knee bone, and the knee bone to the thigh bone. If we are to prophesy to the wind, we must first connect this body. We must connect Eddie Long to Farrakhan and Cornel West to Elders and Lowry to Sharpton. If we can connect this body, then God will blow the breath of life into our community. But as long as we are disconnected, the wind can't blow because it's blowing on disconnected dry bones. But the good news is that we're the children of people that have been through worse than this, and we're still here. So even though I get despondent, I don't ever get depressed, because I want the world to know you won't beat us, because we're the children of those that took the worst form of slavery and brutality that ever lived, that ever existed. Our parents survived the Middle Passage. Only the strong got here, and then we lost our name, our culture, our religion, and we're still here. But you don't know who we are. We're the children of Chaka Zulu. We're the children of Mary McLeod Bethune. We're the children of Marcus Garvey. We're the children of Martin Luther King. We'll be here. We were first, and we'll be last. We know who we are.
This organization has been on the front line. People ask me, why do families call us? Because we never leave them. No justice! No justice! What do we want? What do we want? Keeping it real. What keeping it real. I am when your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, our co-host, Antoine Seawright. Antoine, let's go to Georgia to Ezekiel. Ezekiel is on our call-in line. Ezekiel.
Yes, good afternoon, Reverend Al.
Good afternoon.
And to your co-host, good afternoon. Yes, I just wanted to briefly speak on two very important anniversary dates in African and U.S. history that involve segregation and desegregation. Yesterday, May 17th, was the anniversary since 1954 of Brown versus Board declaring school segregation unconstitutional. That's the anniversary yesterday of Brown versus Board that was headed by Thurgood Marshall. Now today is the anniversary of the 1896 Supreme Court decision that declared separate but equal constitutional in the Plessy versus Ferguson case before the United States Supreme Court. And isn't it ironic that one day after another, one declares segregation unconstitutional, and the next day is an anniversary going back further 130 years to where the United States Supreme Court declared separate but equal, which is segregation, constitutional. I mean, it's so many contradictions.
Ezekiel, right in there, you probably have no idea how profound that is, because what happened with that is, let's go through a little history here. We had in in the mid 1800s, I think it was, I'll look up the date, where the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court was a guy named Roger Taney. And Roger Taney, I believe it was 1857. Roger Taney sat over the court. He'd been nominated to the court and pushed through by President Andrew Jackson. And that is where the Taney court, Antoine, came with the Dred Scott decision. Dred Scott had been enslaved. His owners brought into a free state. He lived in a free state, came back to his home state, and said, I'm no longer a slave. They enslaved him anyhow. And it led to the Dred Scott decision that a black had no rights anyone was bound to respect. That remained law until the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, when we went to the Emancipation Proclamation, which was not law, people don't understand, the Emancipation Proclamation was a presidential order where we had Biden do the George Floyd order. That meant nothing as law. It meant over federal jurisdiction of the president. When Lincoln was killed, Andrew Johnson succeeded him, and it went on. They ended the Reconstruction era. What sealed the Reconstruction era ending, because by the end of Reconstruction, we had a dozen blacks in Congress. We could vote. We were building our own businesses, and etc. They ended all of that with this decision you're talking about, 1896. We never had a decision after Plessy versus Ferguson until May 17, 1954, with Brown versus the Board of Education. So from 1896 to 54, we were legally segregated. Legally. See, I think what people don't understand when we're doing these fights and why we're putting the pressure on the courts and the legislature is it was by law. This wasn't no custom. When whites say that, why do we need affirmative action? Why do we need DEI? Because you by law put us behind. Mm-hmm. And you got to make up what you put behind. I was born in 54. My mother and father couldn't vote in the South until they were in their 30s. They had moved to New York. If they went home, and as my mother eventually did, and reconnected to the South, it was still against the law till 65 before they got the Voting Rights Act. So I think what you open up here is extremely important. And I'd like you to weigh on this, Antoine, because I think people don't understand that we're talking about this like this is the mood of the president or the mood of the country. No, they make it law. What Trump has done with this Supreme Court that he nominated is exactly what Andrew Jackson did around the question around Dred Scott. And the first picture Trump hung up in the Oval Office in 2017 when he became president the first time was he hung up a picture in the Oval Office of President Andrew Jackson. And I said to people, that's the signal right there. Nobody, I mean, I went through public schools and all of that. Nobody in school hears about Andrew Jackson. The only noteworthy historic fact about Jackson was he appointed Roger Taney and the Dred Scott decision.
And the Taney court is just as bad, if not worse, than the Roberts court, to be clear, and history should footnote that. But on a very important note, Reverend Al, because you mentioned a few things, and I want to remind folks that what we see happening right now in front of our eyes is the fastest regression of black political power in the South since Reconstruction ended in 1877. And I don't want folks to undermine or take that lightly because that is a reality, and all that's happening through this redistricting process. But the common denominator between what's happening now and what happened before is the courts. Remember, the courts has always been the Achilles heel or the number one factor in rolling black political progress, power, and representation. 15 years after the Voting Rights Act, it happened, 1980 court case, happened Shelby versus Holder, now Louisiana versus Callis, Plexi versus Ferguson, Brown v. Board of It. All these, the common denominator has been the courts. The court has been a friend and a fixer, but in most cases, it has been the biggest regression tool in this country for black Americans. So when we talk about these presidential elections and we talk about the Senate being up for grabs, it is the courts that is on the ballot along with these elections that are up and down the ballot. That's why voting in the U.S. Senate race is so important. That's why winning the presidency is so important. That's why having control and power is so important.
Absolutely right. And I think that then you understand, you get past all of this bickering and look at what the law is. My grandson, I only have one grandchild, Dominique blessed us with Marcus Al. My grandson will have to live when he gets 40, and it's likely I'll be gone. His mama may still be, she be old. He'll have to live under the law that's still in place. So all of this, y'all get caught up on tweeting and emailing, it ain't gonna matter if the laws are not changed, because the law is going to govern. And the reason why some of us got lazy is we allowed them to start chipping away at the law. Because the law is going to last longer than your life and my life and our generation. If we are to do anything, is we must protect the legal advancements that was made by our forefathers, which they have now just taken back. That's why this whole redistricting fight is important, because the Supreme Court took back what we had for 60 some odd years. And you run around talking about something crazy. That is fundamental.
And Rev, can we just make a footnote about the Supreme Court? This Supreme Court is a result of the 2016 election when Progressive and others were talking about not supporting the Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton for president. Donald Trump put 3 people on the nation's highest court for a lifetime appointment.
And they're the ones that took this vote and took the gut out of the Voting Rights Act. And while some people, not only on the left, and you're absolutely right about the left, but some in our community, in the veneer of acting like they being militant, was really working, whether they knew it or not, for the dislodging of our rights. Talking about they ain't no use in vote, ain't no use in vote, ain't no difference between Hillary and Clinton and Trump, blah, 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 blah. Acting black, serving white supremacy. That's what you did. So you need to shave up your beard, braid up your head, and call yourself Uncle Remus, because that's politically what you are. Let's take a break. Be right back. Thank you for your call, Ezekiel.
Why would you wait another day to handle your IRS?
How you doing?
He said we always go one step forward and two backward. Well, here we are now. The problem is not Trump. The problem is us. We are allowing ourselves to be lowered and our children to feel inferior because you don't have an I am somebody person. You got our artists calling our women bees. Our others calling us niggas. What happened to us? What happened to black and proud? What happened? I'm gonna vote. What happened? Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. What happened to us?
Reverend Sharpton, how do we begin to make peace with our past?
I don't think it's our obligation to make peace with our past. I think it's our obligation to learn from our past and to understand that soon we gonna be the past. I mean, a lot of us act like we gonna be permanent and that the past is the past. If we draw on the strengths of the past and uphold the dignity and the integrity of our people and then perform it at our highest level in our generation, as Dr. Moss said, that's our obligation. You know, one of the reasons that I've been so concerned about this cultural tone that we're in now is a lot of us have lost the dignity that our community has shown from Jamestown to now. I've questioned some of the artists that no longer sing to uplift us. And there's never been a generation that didn't use our music and our culture to lift us up. And the excuse is where they say, well, we just want to show what's there. But we never just accepted what was there. We always looked at what was there and looked through it and brought our people the way it needed to be. So in slavery time, we were singing Go Down Moses and Swing Low Sweet Chariot. We wasn't singing about the cotton picking nigga in the field. That's what we saw, but that's not what we sang. In slavery, in segregation time, we were singing We Shall Overcome. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. We wasn't singing the hoe in the back of the bus. So where is this coming from? And that's what we need to challenge. I wish, all of this about our friend Barack announcing today, I wish Obama had announced here. Because Lincoln did not free us. The abolitionist movement freed us. Lincoln accommodated to freedom fighters. He was not a freedom fighter. Kennedy accommodated the king. Johnson accommodated the king. We got to quit giving the wrong people credit for our history.
You ready, sir?
Yep.
You live.
Keeping it real. Keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. Hot Bud Monday, Antoine Seawright is my co-host. Don't forget, every Saturday and Sunday, watch Politics Nation with Al Sharpton live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on MS Now. This Saturday, we was popping. It was the day that some of Nan, Ebony Riley, and our leadership joined others in Selma and in Montgomery. I had Congressman Figures, who is one of those 2 black seats in Alabama that could be eliminated by this redistricting. He was on Saturday night, as well as on Sunday. Congresswoman Terry Sewell was on. I had Congresswoman Nikema Williams on. I had Governor Bashir from Kentucky on. People saying he's going to run for president. I had him on talking about the Massey race. Thomas Massey is the one Trump wants out because he's been pushing. He's a Republican. He's been pushing the Epstein case. So don't miss Politics Nation. Whatever you hear in the news, I'm going to have them on the show. I don't just have anybody on my show, so don't miss it every Saturday and Sunday. Saturday Action Rally at the House of Justice is now getting ready to go home in about 2 weeks to the new home we have bought. We bought the historic firehouse in Harlem, but we are still meeting every Saturday, including this Saturday. Some of you that are coming to New York for Memorial Day weekend, I will be at the Saturday Action Rally at the Mother AME Zion Church in Harlem, which is 137th Street and Lenox Avenue. You should come up and kick off your Saturday Memorial Day weekend. We're going to talk about who we should be memorializing, who should be our priorities on Memorial Day. I'll be giving that message this Saturday. You that are not in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut vicinity and having it easier to get there on Saturday, you can watch it live on Impact Television, on nationalactionnetwork.net live stream, on YouTube/NAN, or on the AME Zion Network. Let me ask you, Antoine,
as you said, we're facing the biggest threat to black representation in the South in history since the days before we could vote. The question is, as we see this, lay out how this is a methodical plan. This didn't just happen where Trump woke up in the middle of one night and start writing on Truth Social. From the Tea Party to the birther movement to Trump to Project 2025, this is a strategic plan. They use Trump as an instrument, but there are those that always wanted to dislodge our representation. And unfortunately, some of us are cooperating with it. And I see Akeem Smith saying, Reverend Sharpton, the Georgia primary is tomorrow, isn't it? Yes, I said that an hour ago. I had Keisha Lance Bottoms on my TV show last night to remind people she's on the ballot tomorrow. The primary is tomorrow, Akeem, in Georgia. That is correct. But break down what you were saying about the whole legal way they're trying by law and changing constitutional rights to break down black representation, starting in the South, and then I'm sure they'll go north if we don't resist and back them up.
Was signed into law, they went to work right away. Mobile versus Bowdoin, historic court case that Reagan became president in 80. Mobile versus Bowdoin went before the court. That was the first step in watering down the Voting Rights Act. Fast forward the tape, through legislative means, they've been able to restrict voter participation in the states after the Voting Rights Act and water it down even further. Then we get the Shelby versus Holder, another Supreme Court case that gutted Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act. What that meant that they could change precincts, they could change drop box locations, they could change the rules in states without having to notify the Department of Justice, a big cut to the Voting Rights Act. And then this last case, Louisiana versus Callis, it simply says that race, you have to prove race being a factor when it comes to redistricting. And not only did they do that, they went the next day and said that Louisiana can throw out all their votes from their primary and have a new case. Why is that all important? That's just on the redistricting side. At the same time, Reverend Al, the president has signed into law an illegal executive order banning mail-in voting. In some of these states, they've changed drop box locations. They've limited the hours you can do early voting. They've taken away early voting. They've stopped mail-in voting. They're throwing out ballots because signatures do not line up. They're changing the rules when it comes to voter registration. They're trying to implement a poll tax. They're all trying to suffocate and silence our voices at the ballot box, but they're using the courts at the state and local court and the federal courts as their mechanism to drive this disenfranchisement happening in our country. And yes, it's in the South now, but they are not going to limit this to the South because they know they can make headway in the South first and go to these other places. The other thing I want us to pay very close attention to, and NAN has to play a critical role in this, Reverend Al, is that they are not going to stop at congressional lines. They are going to redraw state house and state senate lines as quick as possible. They're not going to wait to the next census, and that's how they are going to try to get power and control for the next 100 years in this country.
Absolutely right. Let's go to Brother Jacob in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, WURD, Word, where there's a primary there tomorrow.
Right. Peace be unto you, Reverend Al, and to your worldwide audience, man. Yeah, you're right. We voting here tomorrow, and I'm praying for a heavy turnout, Rev.
Right.
You know, Rev, earlier you were speaking about people being ignorant, right? And it's a doggone shame that our president is as ignorant as he is. You know, Xi, the president over there in China, he's telling his people and pointing out how ignorant Trump was. Do you know when he went to go to the podium to make Trump look through his personal papers and books?
Yeah, I saw that.
While he was going, Yeah, I'm just saying he did. He insulted the Queen and King of England with his ignorance, right? Now you were talking about ignorance. Imagine that. We got ignorance at the top, right? Now you know, Reverend Al, when me and you was teenagers in 1971, coming out of Detroit, Michigan, it was a group called the Dramatics, right?
That's right.
And they had to tune "What You See Is What You Get."
That's right.
But yeah, our ancestor Ron Banks, right? If God rest his soul, he was the lead singer. Now you know, Kamala Harris, vice president, told us what we were seeing in Donald Trump, right? 34 felony convictions. A judge that called it rape, right? He said, I call it rape, and he had to pay that woman off, right? I think she was a writer, right? Stormy Daniels, he had to pay her out of campaign funds. Then he lied about it, said he didn't do it, right? So, you know, he's raping the American people. He's talking about raping, he raping the American people. Look, y'all already talked about the slush fund he's trying to get. $1.8 billion to pay the people that did the insurrection, the white racists, right? And, you know, Reverend, now I was in Laborers 332 here in Philadelphia, building Laborers, right? We had a saying, I learned, they said, never let people pee on you and tell you it's raining. And that's what some of these people look like. They accept that because he peeing on us and they trying to tell us it's raining, right? All I got to say is we talking about 250 years, Rev. We can't let 250 years of struggle be in vain for something the likes of Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying, Rev?
I absolutely know what you're saying, and I agree with it. I think that we've got to look at it in broad and historic, in historic and broad ways, that rather than look at it in narrow ways, going from event to event. This is about a whole, as I think Antoine says, whole way they're trying to change the laws of the country.
Yeah. Well, all trying to keep white supremacy up front, and we got to stop kicking it down the road and let the next generation deal with it. Rev, I pray that you stay on this and we deal with it and don't let it slide like that. That's our problem. We letting things slide.
No question about it.
Let the next generation deal with it.
No, they can't.
All right, Rev.
All right, they can't deal with. They'll have more to deal with if we let it slide. It'll be more difficult for them to deal with it. Let's take a break. Be right back. Robert Culp used to do a show with Bill Cosby, I Spy, and he did a documentary on breadbasket, Robert Culp.
Oh, wow.
You need to see that documentary. It's great.
Absolutely.
I lived this. I didn't read this. I was there.
You true to this?
I'm true to this.
Not new to this.
I ain't new to this.
Vote to phone Troy.
He was, Jack O'Dell was one of the guys that Kennedy warned Dr. King about. Say he was a communist. Jack O'Dell and Stanley Levinson. And Reverend brought him in. Nobody else in the movement would deal with Jack. Reverend brought him in.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Just us.
Just us.
But there's stories behind all of it. It didn't just happen.
But I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody. I may be in jail, but I am somebody. I may be an educator, but I am somebody. I am black, beautiful.
Do you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton time. It's time to put aside all pretenses, deception, denial, or fronting. The time has come to keep it real on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. You need to keep it real with Reverend Al Sharpton right here on Uber TV. Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Let's go back to the phone. Attorney Jennifer Jones-Austin is... every day, Monday through Friday, I do 3 hours a day on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. I do 1 hour on Sunday mornings with Reverend Al Sharpton. And I'm live on radio and TV with the Saturday Action Rally. 7 days a week, I talk to our people, hear from them, the call-in. I'm sick and tired of people talking for people that they don't talk to. So go on www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Listen to my show, call in, express your opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But let's start talking to each other rather than about each other and lecturing at each other. Let's keep it real with Sharpton.
Happy 20th anniversary to Reverend Al Sharpton on 20 years of Keeping It Real. 2 decades of truth-telling, fearless advocacy, and keeping the people informed and empowered. Thank you for always speaking power to justice and standing firm for what's right. Here's to 20 years of impact and many more to come.
And I think that is extremely important about the funding. But I also want to add how they're changing what can be taught. You have states outright saying you can't teach Black history and you can't teach certain other histories and the curriculum. You have this administration that is literally taking out exhibits from the Smithsonian. So we have not only an education problem in terms of resources, we have an education problem in terms of curriculum and what people are being taught. So I have one grandchild, 6-year-old. When he gets to high school, it may be just against the law for him to learn about certain parts of American history, which includes Blacks. We don't want to talk about slavery. We want to talk about the good side of America. Well, what does that mean? That's not history. Everything was not good. And I think that that is the threat that we've got to fight, which is why we've got to fight with the courts and the streets, because they are literally changing the textbooks as we go. As they do that, they change the opportunities, because then the fight against affirmative action is not having access to these institutions and telling these institutions, this whole fight around DEI, which they did, started at Harvard with a Black woman president. Started with them saying you can't teach diversity in an Ivy League school like Harvard. It didn't start in Little Rock at the high school. This fight, this time, was Harvard. And they went from there on. And I think that we've got to have the same resistance. If they could fight in the 50s, at ACP, we would put them together and deal with the question from Little Rock in terms of desegregation. Then we that are far more educated, far more economically secure personally, have no excuse in the age of what they did in Harvard not to be standing up back in this.
So it's become almost an unhealthy habit how much I'm listening to Keep It Real, because it is the realest thing on the air anywhere, whether it be online or whether it be on the radio or wherever it's coming into you from, because there's no one of Rev's importance and caliber who is as dominant a media figure as he is, who allows people to speak at length and and who he treats with equal respect and admiration with every call, whether he agrees with you or not. And I'm not going to throw shade at anybody, but there are a lot of people with big platforms like the Rev has who are afraid to talk to the people and who are afraid that the people will keep it real with them. And he never shies away from anything any of us want to talk to him about. And he doesn't shut you up. It's not a soundbite, it's a conversation. So I would like people in media to learn from this man who is carrying MLK's torch. Don't be afraid of people. Listen to them, respect them, and stand in God and stand in truth. Thank you, Nan. Thank you, Rev. Thank you, everybody who puts this together and sends it out across the world, because we need much more of it. Bless you.
Frank, my ace boon coon on the west side of Chicago. He says it's the best side. Frank?
Yes, sir, because yes, it is. It's the best side because we follow Reverend Howell. That's why we keep it real well. We go. Good afternoon to you, Reverend Howell, and Brother C. Wright. Rev, I know I sound kind of medical, it sound kind of down, but I've been hanging off the air calling in because there's something went on me. I want to bring to the air, and I really don't know how it's going to be accepted. But I know, when it comes to the conclusion, I can't give out the this. This is just too important. I got to bring it to the air, and I got to lay it out there and let people do their own research and don't have to take my word on none of this. I'm going to start off like this. I want to make it just right. Reverend Al, Brother Sue, have anyone ever asked a question of why exactly does Iran want to own nuclear weapons, possess nuclear weapons? Have that question been asked and answered to either one of you guys' satisfaction?
Not to my satisfaction, no.
What about you, Brother C. Right?
I'm with the Rev on that.
Okay. This is what I discovered, and this, you can go to YouTube, go to whatever you want to. Some people said you can't believe everything that you hear on YouTube, the internet, and all that stuff, which is true. But this is what I discovered, and this is long before YouTube, long before the internet as we know it, long before fake news as we see it as today, long before AI as we know it as today. This is long before all that. This has been said and asked when Iran first went on the quest to possess nuclear weapons. I've heard in documentaries from their scholars, political leaders, all to Ayatollahs. All of Iranian people know this, and Israeli people also. I've also heard it from my own religious scholars over here that come on Sunday mornings. I'm talking about more than 10, 15, 17, 18 years ago, breaking down as they line up the politics of the time, combined with the religious scriptures and what's to come and what has been done. The bottom line is this, people, and do not think I'm a Trump supporter, because there's a reason why they won't just come out and say it, probably because they want to spread widespread historical or any kind of panic. But this is what I've been known for decades. Iran, when asked, they just flat out said, why do you want to possess nuclear weapons? Their plan is this. They say if they ever have the ability to create nuclear weapons, their plan is to launch a nuclear strike against Israel to totally destroy everything over there. This will cause the United States to retaliate on behalf of Israel. Nuclear weapons. This will bring the United States coming into it. This is their hopes. This will bring Russia into it on the side of Iran. If y'all know, Russia is a backer of Iran, and China is too. Russia come into it, then they expect all of NATO, starting with England, come in on our side. That happened, then here comes China. Donald Trump went to China to make sure PGN, whatever his name is, the king or the president of China over there, know the real reason why Iran wants to possess nuclear weapons. Now, even that president is coming out and saying that, yes, Iran cannot possess nuclear weapons, but we still must open the strait. Iran figured they can start a nuclear holocaust all across the planet to bring mankind to the brink of destruction and could become extinct. Iran figured this will force the hand of God to speed up the return of Christ, to put an end to all wars and bring forth peace throughout the entire world and set forth a new world order under the banner of the Christ to come. And they know all about Christ. They know about the Immaculate Conception, the crucifixion. They believe in Christ just like we do. The only difference is they think Christ, when he come back, he's going to bring the world up on one religion, and that religion would be Islam. Okay? And then once again, we have madmen trying to force the hand of God, like Judas of Iscariot caused himself doing, trying to force the hand of God, thinking that Christ will never allow himself to be crucified. That's a different story. I'm going to stay on track where I am. Iran wants to bring mankind to the brink of extinction to speed up the return of Christ.
Let me ask you this: is it not also been said by the other side that Netanyahu in Israel wants to do the same thing, and why should they be allowed to have nuclear weapons and wipe out Arab countries? Whoa. Let me ask you. To start a nuclear holocaust? Let me ask the question. That why should they be allowed to have nuclear weapons and have as a threat to all the Arab nations that Netanyahu clearly, not everybody in Israel, but Netanyahu clearly wants to wipe out. So that why couldn't they have a balance of both sides? Now, I'm not for anybody having a nuclear weapon. Let me be clear. But you got to have one set of rules.
Let me answer like this. Netanyahu is not saying that he wants to start a nuclear holocaust to bring mankind.
Well, neither is Iran. Iran is not saying. Iran's not saying that publicly.
I've heard it river now, publicly, more than 10 years ago. How they own scholars' mouth politics. Let me finish, Red. You don't like cut you up. I got too much respect for that. They either told us, have said it. They have boldly said, all of Israel knows this. Y'all know Israel is one of the main countries. Them people there, they have no problem with hitting the streets and just flooding the entire nation like ants. They have not even rose up to stop Netanyahu, because they all know this. The Iranian people, they all know this. Netanyahu is not trying to start a nuclear holocaust. And when Donald Trump says nothing else matters except stopping Iran from becoming a nuclear power, why they won't come and spell it all out, Red? I just said I can only speculate.
I would like them. I'd like to see them spell it out, and then they'd also have to explain to me.
I understand.
Wait a minute. Then they'd also have to explain to me. Then why did they oppose when Obama made the deal to back them up? If their concern was, and it may be, a nuclear weapon, when Obama made the deal with Iran that there was some exchange of money, they castigated Obama. So why are they now taking a position that they was highly critical of Obama taking?
Okay, Two things I want to point out with that right there. It has been discovered the deal they made with Obama was a good deal, but Iran was still secretly trying to reach weapons-grade plutonium. Okay? Weapons-grade. So this is why Donald Trump is saying now Iran cannot have no type of nuclear capability, period. None, zero. If we do your own research, people.
I promise you I'll research it. Do you want to say anything on this, Antoine?
No, other than what clearly is happening right before our eyes is Donald Trump needed a distraction. He needed an enemy that everyone can agree with is an enemy in Iran. He uses as a business opportunity for him and his allies post the presidency with the oil and all the business dealings that come along with Iran. And voila, we get into a war of choice that's had consequential impact on our economy. And as a result of that, he is literally trying to get back to the same place where we were with the Obama-Iran nuclear deal 2015. They're not trying to negotiate anything new. They're literally trying to get back to the same place we were of the Iran nuclear deal 2015. So I think there may be some misinformation out there that's saying otherwise, but everything I've read and seen and heard is that the negotiations are trying to get us back to the same language, just with a different author of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal.
All right, let me do the research on that. Thank you for your call, Frank. I think also, and I just got a text, Reverend Rivers and them are at the Columbia, at the South Carolina legislative meet. We'll see if we hear anything before we go off the air. But I really don't want us to ignore the present danger that we are under here with losing voting power, and then being at the mercy then of people that will cut deals. See, the problem I got is that I don't think anybody wants to see Iran or anybody else with a nuclear weapon. I don't want anybody to have a nuclear weapon. But, Antoine, when I see Trump going to Peking with Tim Cook and Elon Musk and others, that ain't got nothing to do with protecting anybody from nuclear weapons.
Well, Rev, I can tell you this. Donald Trump is a businessman first. And he's not America first. He's Donald Trump, the businessman first. And I think this second iteration of his presidency is proving what the latter part of his presidency was the first time. Donald Trump has made $3 billion since becoming president of the United States. Where is that normal? 300-some-odd thousand trades. At the same time, we got a Congress who does not even want to ban trading amongst his members. And then you got a speaker who says because of the salary, he does not want to ban trading. Just imagine if Barack Obama would have made $300,000 outside of the presidency. Just can you imagine the response from conservatives and extremists in this country? $3 billion. Reverend, that's not a little bit of money. At the same period of time, America is a nation in the ICU because of the affordability crisis they created, including cutting SNAP benefits and health care for folks to the point where they can't afford it.
I think these are critical issues that we must bring to bear. Let's get ready to take a break. We'll be right back. 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton, See Right, Hot Button Monday. Be right back.
So who is Al Sharpton anyway? Who is this 33-year-old preacher without a church?
A number of black New Yorkers as well. He is little more than a pudgy exhibitionist who can be counted on to show up, bullhorn in hand, at every racial incident.
I often quote Mark Twain saying, "The two most important moments in life
is the moment you are born and the moment you find out why you are born. I had a very troubling conversation the other day that prompted me to do this little video. Young man that I've known a while came to me and he was crushed. I mean, really crushed, because people were criticizing his work. He's in the ministry, but he's also an actor. And he said he couldn't understand why people were jumping all over, criticizing him, trying to find scandalous and derogatory things about him. And I told him, I said, you know, you're very young. You don't know the road I've traveled. They called me everything but a child of God.
Racial discord, a blabbermouth, a loudmouth, too flamboyant, an agitator, a racist,
I
a race
had to
baiter.
learn.
Yeah, right.
I was not defined by how others saw me. I was defined by how I saw myself and whether I was being true to myself. Some of you watching this don't like me. And it doesn't matter as long as I know what I'm doing. And I like me for being real. So I'm doing this video to say to you, whoever you are, and whatever you do, you may not be in ministry or social justice, none of this stuff, but don't live your life worried about opposition or people that don't like you. You can turn that around. Use me as an example. The same people that call me a scam artist, a con artist, a sellout, or racial hustler and all, I kept going. And the people I respected started respecting and publicly embracing my work.
When Coretta Scott King, the widow of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., had this to say about Al Sharpton.
A leader who has protested injustice with a passionate, unrelenting commitment to nonviolent action in the spirit and tradition of Martin Luther King Jr. And I am talking about your leader, our leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
The other thing that hasn't changed is the National Action Network's commitment to fight injustice and inequality here in New York City and across America. And that's not only a testament to Reverend Sharpton, it's a testament to all of you who are here tonight.
First and foremost, to Reverend Sharpton. I saw him when he first came on the scene, and I have marveled at his tenacity, at the development of his intellect, and his devotion to our movement, and much he has contributed to the world we are experiencing. I am honored, and I must say that when I had my debate with Dr. King on the issue of the church and religion, he didn't warn me that after his departure, his space would be filled by another preacher, and that preacher would be Al Sharpton.
All you want in life is people that matter to you to say you did all right. And more important, that you can look in the mirror and say you did all right.
Thank you, Rev. Thanks for that introduction. Look, we've known each other for a long time. I'm grateful not only for your leadership and partnership, but quite frankly, more importantly, for your friendship. And thanks to all of you, members of our nation's most important civil rights organization.
You have been, over all of your years, such an extraordinary leader. You are a voice of truth, a voice of conscience, a voice of practicality around what we must address and what we can do. And I thank you so much for your friendship.
I remember that most of the youth around Al's age, he was about 12, wanted to be like Connie Hawkins, a great basketball player, legend, or Earl the Pearl, or Clyde Frazier. Al wanted to be like Adam Powell, a powerful preacher with a social justice gospel. He was very close to, at that time, the Reverend William Augustus Jones, powerful preacher and social justice advocate, and Reverend Gardner Taylor State right down the street, and Bishop Washington, whose church he came from, and Reverend Sandy Ray. He wanted to be like these giant preachers. He wanted them to have the edge, however, of the King's social justice dimension. He wanted to be like them, now he's one of them. Perhaps taller than most of them because of the risks he has taken and reward God has given him with his gift. I remember so well that I first escorted him to jail. He was around 13 years old with the jail fighting the ANP. He was in the lineage of our struggle. He grew up in it. We didn't just see him on TV one night. He didn't happen. He came bottom up, not top down.
straight. They did not think we could come and be here tonight. They cut budgets and advertising, but one black man, Rich Newton, said, I don't care. My families come together every 4th of July weekend, and Essence will happen, because that's who we are. Give a big hand to Rich New Dennis for bringing us back. Why do we come? Because the essence of who we are is essential to what made this nation. We built this nation. We made this nation. We created the essential dollars that this nation lives off of. We don't care what bill they pass. We will not back up. We will not back down. We will not give in. We will not be chased out. We don't care who's in the White House. We will organize our house by house. We came over the Middle Passage. We survived slavery. We survived Jim Crow. Don't you give up now. Don't you turn back now. Stand up, black man. Stand up, black woman. Reclaim your dignity. Reclaim your place. So we stand with the Black Economic Forum. We stand with Essence Magazine because that's who we are. So don't give in now. Yes, it's some rough days, but we've been through rougher days than this. Yes, Trump is a bad dude, but we beat badder dudes than Trump. So let's party with a purpose, because our rhythm and our music reminds us who we are, because we can smile through our pain and organize for our gain. Let's stand up and let's celebrate who we are. Thank you, God bless you.
Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive on tomorrow night and beyond. Young America, hold your head high now. We can win. You must never stop dreaming. Face reality, yes, but don't stop with the way things are. Dream of things as they ought to be.
Real, keeping it real.
Face pain.
I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. Antoine Seawright is our co-host. Antoine, let me take advantage of having you with us. I want our listeners to understand some fundamentals here that I don't know anyone better in the country than you to break it down. We talk about if the Democrats were to win the midterm elections and we take the majority of the House, that Hakeem Jeffries would be the Speaker and that key committees would be held by blacks as chairman. Explain what function a speaker has and a chair of committees have that directly impact the lives of our listeners, both how they can stop some of the assault on us and how they can protect some of the things that we're concerned about.
Well, first and foremost, we get a chance to legislatively cut the Trump presidency in half, and we actually get to put some parameters and some guardrails in place that have not existed. The Constitution simply says the executive branch is to be has oversight from the legislative branch. We've not seen that oversight from the legislative branch holding the executive branch accountable. That's why you see this power grab by Donald Trump consistently for the past year and a half. But what this will mean in terms of pure power, and I use the word power because earlier in this program, Reb, I mentioned to the audience that the Republicans led by Donald Trump are trying to eliminate and exterminate black political power and representation. So if we win in November, we will have both political power and representation inside the House. Outside the House, that's going to be up to us and how we participate. But if we have power representation inside the House, that means the chair of the Ag Committee, Chantel Brown, black woman, will be the first time from Cleveland, Ohio. That means Benny Thompson will be chair of Homeland Security from Mississippi if they do not redraw the lines to exterminate him. That means Bobby Scott from Virginia will be chair of Ed and Labor. That means Gregory Meeks of New York will be chair of Foreign Affairs. That means Maxine Waters will be chair of Financial Services. That also means a number of subcommittees, which actually where legislation actually moves and gets its hearing. That also means Hakeem Jeffries will be the speaker who essentially decides the agenda. That means Joe Neguse, black man, 40-year-old from Colorado, will be your assistant speaker, doing the listing and the blocking and tackling on behalf of the speaker, both inside the House, outside the House. That also means, or could mean, Lauren Underwood, 40-something-year-old black woman from Illinois, could be the assistant or the vice chair of the House Democratic Caucus. So there are tremendous opportunities for black representation to exist and have power to decide what the agenda looks like and what the priorities are from the U.S. Congress standpoint. If we win the Senate, that means people like Cory Booker, Warnock, Lisa Blunt Rochester, the new senator from Maryland, Angela Alsobrooks, and others will have also power and say-so on what the priorities and the agenda is for the United States Senate. So we get to not only set the thermostat, we get the keys to the lockbox that's on top of the thermostat. That's why these elections are so important. And that's why you see them relentlessly trying to make certain that we do not win in November, because they know what's on the other side of November if we win.
Now, having said that, not only do they have the positions to frame some of the legislation and get it out of committees that affect us on the ground, health care, labor rights, etc., education. But they also have the power, if we have a chair of judiciary or the Democrats in charge of judiciary, they have subpoena power. And I don't take lightly when someone surfaced Steve Bannon saying on tape that if we lose these elections, we're going to jail. A lot of these people that Evangelist Ramsey is reminding me that this 121st week we've been marching on the DEI killer, Bill Ackman. A lot of these people have made deals that if they had to come before Congress under oath, they could be prosecuted for, and clearly made them under the duress of trading government contracts for some public policy that was detrimental to us.
And Rev, the other piece of that, if they don't show up, they can go to jail. That's why you saw Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton march their way through the committee, all the former Biden officials. And when you are under oath and you lie under oath, you also have the propensity to go to jail if you lie under oath. So this is serious business on whether or not we win elections. I always like to say that you cannot govern if you do not win. Losers don't legislate. So if you're frustrated and mad and you don't think the system is being fair and you don't think we are getting the same cut as Trump folks and they can get away with stuff we can't, that's because we don't have the power to do what they do. This is all about power, influence, and representation. That's what this election is all about. And Rev, I said this on a TV program earlier this weekend, and I'll say here on this show because I mean this from the bottom of my heart as a 41-year-old black man from the South. Black folks are casting a survival vote in this election. We are casting a survival vote in this election. Whoever wins in November, up and down that ballot, from the presidency to the precinct, will determine whether or not our community lives or die. I believe in prayer. I believe in the power of God, but I also know faith without works is dead. Whoever wins in November will have a large say-so in whether or not communities that look like Al Sharpton's and Antoine C. Wright's will live or die. This election is by far the most consequential we've had in my 41 years.
And I agree with everything you just stated. Let me give some dramatize it down, like Jess used to say to us, bring it down where the goats could eat it. If they subpoena, say the Democrats win, they have the Justice Department, the Justice Committee, Judiciary Committee, or Maxine Waters is chair of the committee. They can subpoena the CEOs of companies and say, under oath, did you not talk to someone in the administration, maybe even the president? And they were told if you did not drop diversity, equity, and inclusion, you could not get a federal contract renewed that you had, or that you could not get a merger that you were. That is criminal. Mm-hmm. If they traded policy that impacted our community to get a contract, which is why a lot of these companies went I can't do D&I. Well, that didn't just happen because they had a press conference. Some conversations had been made. And one of the things I've said to people that I want to see the Democrats take charge is I want to see the people, particularly those corporations that make so much money out of our community and then flipped on the community overnight, to have to admit under oath they were threatened, and they kowtowed to those threats, that their mergers would be blocked or their contracts would be canceled, not based on the merit, but based on where they stood on DEI in terms of dealing with our community. That is a crime.
And Rev, we will not be able to do any of that in terms of accountability without having power. And the latest example is Diageo. Stephanie Childs, dear friend, dear sister, the highest ranking black woman in the food and beverage industry, was let go by Diageo last week.
Yep.
We know we have a problem out here in this season.
That's right. I totally agree. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back.
I remember I was 12 years old. I was a boy preacher in the Church of God in Christ. Bishop Shear knew my bishop, Bishop Washington. Bishop Washington, my mother was concerned I was getting into politics. They brought us to Reverend William Jones. His daughter's traveling with us. And Reverend Jones introduced me to Jesse Jackson. I became his youth director in New York at 13. I liked Reverend Jackson because he was a little hipper than the older preachers. He was 27, I was 13 by the time I became youth director. So he was like a father figure to me. When I got about 40, he said, quit calling me father, call me big brother. We went to the car center, and James Meeks and Jesse Jr. and I had dinner with him that night. And that's when he said to us, Al, me, Jesse Jr., y'all are my disciples. And we said, disciples? And for years, we joked each other. I'd come in the room and Junior say, here's disciple number one. But discipleship meant you carried forth the vision. The next day, he took me on the ferry to Goree Island, Mrs. Jackson. On Goree Island, he showed me where the slave camps were. And I will never forget, he said, Al, you see what that artifact is? I said, what's that? He said, they call it the door of no return.
When you go through that door, you either made it to America to slavery, or you died in the Atlantic. The door, no return. But I talked to him about 3 years ago, and I reminded him, I said, remember you brought me to the door of no return? He said, yeah. I said, well, we did return. We returned the President of the United States, Barack Obama. We returned the Vice President, Kamala Harris. We returned with businessmen. They thought they sent us as slaves. We came back as global liberators. The problem is that too many of us did not join the movements that sponsored us. And there was a breakout in 2024 called Negro Amnesia, where you forgot where you came from and forgot how you got where you got. Therefore, they're trying to take back everything you had.
This organization has been on the front line. People ask me, why do families call us? Because we never leave them. No justice! No justice! What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? When do we want it? When do we want it?
Tony Wafer, Los Angeles chapter, National Action Network. He just came in here to New York a couple days ago. Had to stop by the House of Justice, and I sure enough found some justice, so I know I can leave here feeling like I got peace.
Many people cannot focus because they have not really come to terms with their calling and life purpose. In order to focus, you must also be clear on what you're focusing on. So if you're not clear on your purpose, if you're not clear on your life's calling, then focus on seeking that. Because if you just read the ways and roads you traveled that you didn't even choose, that were sort of just laid out for you by God, in that it's telling you, speaking to you about what your purpose is and what you were born to do and be. I learned the things that I didn't plan had to be planned by God, and God's plan was directed toward God's purpose in my life. And I focus on that. Not focus on what others do, not focus on how well they're doing or bad they're doing, but focus on whether I'm in line and aligned with what I'm supposed to be about. And in order to move straight ahead, you have to be focused on the path you're running on.
No justice! No justice! 62 years ago today, Martin marched in Washington. 62 years later, the dream is now dead.
I'm here because I must be here. Democracy is not there for the picking. You have to fight for democracy. That's what it is. What Trump will erase, we will replace.
Is the dreamers in many cases have reversed and tried to turn it into a nightmare. We come to Wall Street, gradually watch. Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. Antoine Seawright is our co-host, as he is every Monday for Hot Button Monday. Let me remind people in Georgia and in Philadelphia and other places that there is primary day tomorrow. Don't stop until you vote and get other people out to vote. Everybody out to vote, particularly in those areas. And let me say that this weekend on Politics Nation, I certainly will have the principals on that win the vote, as we had candidates and others on this past weekend. And I'm also going to deal with what Memorial Day means to blacks. It is Memorial Day weekend. We need to deal with what that really means to our community, who we memorialize and why, as well as those in the military. I mean, the horror stories I heard as a youngster is how people from our community, men, will go and defend this country and come back and have to sit in the back of the bus behind people who they had fought in Europe to save this country. How I had an uncle that talked about how he had to sit in the back of the bus in Alabama listening to a guy with a German accent sit up front who he had fought Germany in World War II. I remember when I was young youth director of New York Operation Breadbasket, Reverend Jackson took my mother and I with him to a Daytop Village benefit at the home of Jackie Robinson in Stamford, Connecticut. And Roberta Flack sang it was to raise money for Daytop Village, which was rehabbing people that had drug addictions, and one of Jackie Robinson's sons had gone through it. This was public. And I remember I never knew that, Antoine, that a decade before, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on the bus in Montgomery. Jackie Robinson refused to ride the back during the military and was court-martialed because he fought against being told he had to sit in the back during military operations. So that's the kind of stuff we need to be talking about on Memorial Day, because we have people that fought against the enemies of the country and those that were enemies to us in the country. Imagine that. You're going to fight for somebody, and then they come home and treat you as less than equal, but y'all were equal in the foxhole while you were defending their life, and never be given the kind of credit and military stature. I mean, some of you can call in, talk about people in your family that went through that, and it can break your spirit. It can affect you the rest of your life, because it's never where you are given the consideration, given the credit, or given the stature to your children. You may be beyond just the ego trip, but you want your kids to know that you were worthy and did worthy things. You're even denied that. Those are the kinds of people I'm going to talk about in Memorial Day this weekend on Politics Nation. So watch it first Saturday, then Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on MS Now. You that are in the New York area, we're going to have a Memorial Day message at our Saturday Action Rally, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the historic Mother AME Zion Church in Harlem, 137th and Lenox. We are about 2 weeks away from moving into our permanent headquarters we just bought, and they just sent me pictures. They are really getting this place ready. Nothing was wrong with the structure. It's just some of the inside stuff we wanted to do different, shape different. So we have room for all of our activities because it's going to be a permanent headquarters. One of the things that concerns me, Antoine, that I want you to weigh in on is that we also find ourselves at the mercy of a hostile media. And I think if we had done, if we had were able to have a counterbalance to them, we'd have more people well informed in the country. Talk about how they right-wingers use everybody from Fox News to these live streams where Tucker Carlson is on and others.
Well, Red, we have a plan. They have an agenda. They're two different things, and their priorities for their agenda does not look like our plan. Plans expire. Agendas last for an extended period of time. They use the power of the airway. Nation own radio airway. Perks program will continue. They use to control what is from this ecosystem between of the people in the movement, trying to fact that the black Reverend Al play in defining the moment and educating the town hall about this racial gerrymandering that's happening. Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin passed the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act when Joe Biden was the president, and we had the power to do so. And I mentioned the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and I said, Terry Sewell, of course, is trying to keep that alive and well. I had 3 people raise their hand saying, can you give us the number to his office so we can call and thank him and ask him to push that legislation? That shows you the level of disconnect between what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish, Reverend Al, and people in communities. And 2 of those people did not look like Reverend Al and Antoine Seawright.
Yeah, and see, it's funny you say that because a guy stopped me the other day at an event I was at, and he said, y'all march and protest, Reverend, most of my life. What have y'all done? I said, the racial profiling laws that changed the law where you could not profile. This is law. Would not have happened if we had not marched and made it an issue. The police misconduct where we had cameras put on police by President Obama would not have happened if we had not done that. The whole stop and frisk where we changed the laws in New York and other places. You act like that just happened. It happened because we made them issues. Stuff happens every day. Unless somebody dramatizes it and makes it an issue, it will not change the law. And stuff we made corporations do in terms of advertising on black media. These are tangible things that we did. Now, the irony of it is, most of the things we did, in my case, families called me. People talk about, well, why Reverend Al always out? Of course, somebody called me. They didn't call you. Don't get mad at me. And I was able to turn their calls into something that would answer their needs and the bigger picture. Every Saturday, people that come to Saturday rallies or watch it, Eric Garner's mother is still at the rally. Her son got killed years ago. The Central Park 5 is still there. That happened to them 30 years ago because we was there for them. But our critics are not anywhere but somewhere criticizing. They can't name 2 things they tried to do, but we can name things we can and have been able to do. Now, at the same time, the same is true of some of our elected officials. Many of our elected officials, particularly people like Jim Clyburn and Maxine Waters and others, can say what they got through Congress. This law, that law, block this, block that. And you run around talking about what is this going to get done? A lot of what we did and got done, factual, I see somebody writing on Olivia, yep, factual information, is what you can't dispute. So I think that it is absolutely, I would put some of the caucus members' records, I'd put some of us with civil rights organizations like NAN records against any of our critics who make their whole life, some make their living off criticizing some of us that go on the front line at great risk. I've been stabbed, I've been put in jail for demonstrations. It's not like somebody gave us some magic wand. When I got stabbed in 91, I had no idea I'd have a TV show in 2011. So all of this trying to demonize us is to try and set the climate so they can take back the gains that we've made and prevent the gains we still are fighting for.
And Reverend Al, you know, one thing, I had this conversation, I'll share this confidentially, don't y'all tell them I talked about this on air. I had this conversation with Jim Clyburn yesterday morning, early in the morning. And I said to him, we were talking about what the re-election campaign is going to look like for him. He is running for re-election. I said, you know, I'm going to give you your own set of advice for this moment. We've got to tell people what you're going to do. We got to tell people when you do it, and then you got to go back and remind them that you did it. You say you were going to do it, and you're going to did it. That you did it. And that's where we are in this attention economy that's facing the United States in this 24-hour news cycle. We got to tell people what we're going to do. We got to brag about it when we get it done. Then we got to go back and tell them. Otherwise, people will continue to question the work of Sharpton and others that they've been laboring in the vineyard for a long time and can point to their accomplishments. So you've got to put on your arrogant badge, Reverend Al, and you've got to go back and tell the people what you say you were going to do, show them that you did it, and tell them, yes, I did exactly what I said I was going to do.
I think that's sound advice. Thank you for that. I have to go out here to music. Let me thank Antoine Seawright. Let me thank all of you that called in, listened in, and couldn't get through, but hung in there anyhow. Remember, whatever you do, wherever you go, however you feel, tell somebody, tell anybody, tell everybody. Reverend Al told you personally, keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real. I'll talk to you tomorrow.